So I guess we are live. Okay, so let's wait maybe 30 seconds for people to join the broadcast, and we will start our panel. Okay, guys, so I know more people will probably join in the next couple of minutes, but let's begin. So hello, everybody who is listening to our live panel. My name is Georgi Kleiner. I am representing Uploving here and acting as a moderator for the panel. I am a senior manager of business development at Uploving, managing both user acquisition and ad monetization sides of the business here in EMEA. With me today are our speakers are Tom, Louis, and Gonzalo. I'll let them introduce themselves in a minute. So today we are here to discuss, the topic of growing, of how to grow your hyper-casual games with IAP revenue. As we see more and more, IAP revenue being a key part of the growth and monetization for hyper-casual and hybrid casual type of games. So before we go to our speakers, I want to note that we will have approximately 3 to 5 minutes at the end of our session for Q&A. So please drop your questions in the comments, and we will try to select a couple and answer them. We will probably not have time to answer all of the questions, so feel free to reach out to me or to the speakers in the system of the conference, and I think everybody will be happy to continue the conversation there. So let's start with the introductions. So Artem, let's start with you. You are the first one on my screen. Tell us about yourself, your role at Azure Games, and yeah, let's get it started.
Hello, everyone. My name is Artem. I'm head of user acquisition in Azure Games. I'm responsible for growing our games for publishing and our own products. We have really huge variety of types of games. We have mid-core and casual and hyper-casual. So I think our experience could be helpful on this panel.
Yeah, thank you, Artem. I believe your experience will be very valuable. Gonzalo?
Hi. Hey, so thank you for the invite. Yeah, so my name is Gonzalo. I'm head of marketing at Boombit, meaning that I'm overseeing the user acquisition and the monetization departments. So yeah, Boombit is a mobile game publisher, and just like Azure, we focused both on hyper casual, mid-core, even some games in console. So I think it's pretty good to be here because we can talk a bit about different types of games.
Yeah, thank you, Gonzalo. Louis?
Hey guys, so I'm Louis, I'm Chief Creative Officer at HGC. So HGC is a mobile gaming studio. We focus on what we call hybrid casual games, which are very accessible games, but with more content to keep our players engaged, more than hyper casual, which was our first love, if I can say at HGC. Yeah, so I'm supervising the game design team on one part of the company, and ad design team, so marketing creatives. So I have a foot in the studio and in the publishing team at the same time. I'm a bit of a bridge between these two teams.
Yeah, thank you, Louis. So yeah, let's start with the main questions of our panel, and I think let's try to dig into the kind of main topic, right? So why exactly IAP monetization is becoming more and more important for hyper casual and hybrid casual games, right? Because I think like traditionally, IAP was kind of overlooked and not maximized in hyper casual games when they were growing. But right now, being on the network side, I see more and more publishers relying on IAP monetization for these kind of games. So, Gonzalo, let's start with you. What have you seen at Boombit Games, and why, you guys start to pay more attention to IAP monetization?
Yes, of course. So, I mean, talking mainly about hybrid casual and upper casual, of course, that IAPs, the basics of it is helping you, increase your ARPU, is helping you get better quality users, is helping us, especially as user acquisition managers, to have a slightly higher ARPU to work with. But I think something that a lot of people don't think about, or at least that's what I'm assuming, is that on the other hand, you are also able to use a lot of targeting tools on the user acquisition side, on the ad networks, that you will never be able to use them if you don't have the event purchase, right? So you will be able to start using all the IAP event-based targeting on the ad network side, that most of the times actually what it's doing is just targeting better quality users, even though that sometimes those users, they don't even consume in-app purchases, but because they have this this consumer pattern of sometimes consuming some in-app purchases, networks know this and they are aware of this, so they are willing to pay even higher CPMs than a normal user. So here, by introducing the event purchase in your upper casual, even though sometimes it's only around 10%, 15% of your revenue, you're actually allowing the ad networks to explore a bit more, to go one step further and look for better quality users that sometimes it doesn't even automatically mean that they have to consume in-app purchases. So this is something that we start seeing across a lot of ad networks, and yeah, it's been kind of a game changer for us.
Yeah, thank you, Gonzalo. Artem, what have you seen at other games?
Sure. Some points from our side. First is that you always have like two types of users: those who just watch ads, and the second is those who don't want to watch ads and they are ready to pay. So then, when you don't have the purchase option on your game, you just cut off this audience. The second point is when you receive people that are paying people in your app, in your game, you have higher eCPMs from the monetization side. So your eCPMs grows and your revenue grows. Third point is the, as Gonzalo said, diversification of the revenue sources. So you can afford yourself more expensive audience, more channels. Another point is that you can target different audiences on the UA side. You can use different optimization strategies. Another one is the longer life cycle of the games, because people who pay, they have longer retention. They have more reason to stay longer on your game, and you increase the life cycle of your game. And the last but not least is that the pandemic has brought a lot of new users into gaming, and according to the recent reports, they just stayed and became more experienced. So the appetite for a bit more complex mechanics has grown. So those people who were just fond of making match 3, etc., they are now ready for some mechanics like collectibles, consumables, or cosmetics. And it's not just like we decide to just put payables, paid mechanics, etc. It's about integrating something interesting, more engaging and satisfying into your game, and improving your user experience. And after all, making them pay.
Yeah, thank you, Artem. Yeah, I think following the user and what they want is always a good thing, right? Consumer is always right. So, Louis, what have you seen in 8sec, when it comes to IAP monetization? As you say, hyper casual, ad-driven was your first love, but what have you seen recently?
Yeah, I think this guy said everything. In-app purchases means bigger ITVs, which means you can work with higher CPIs also. So you're not as dependent of trends as you were before with the hyper casual. And when you need to work with these trends to have a very low cost per installation. So that's the I think the biggest thing for us. At this level. At 8sec, yeah, we now have a good ratio of in-app purchases in our games. Before, like in hyper casual games, it was like 3% maximum of players were paying, mainly for the no ads in-app purchase we all know, and now it's more closer than to 30% of users of revenue coming from in-app purchases. And we aim even for higher in our future games. We are working on new games right now as I'm talking. Yeah, so that's a big target for us to increase this kind of revenue.
Yeah, sounds great. I mean, 30% is a pretty impressive number when it comes to diversifying revenue sources. So I think we kind of got the gist of why it's important. So let's maybe jump into understanding how to evaluate these type of games at early stages, right? And what's maybe the difference that you guys have seen compared to the classical hyper casual game where basically only IAP source is removing ads, as Louis mentioned before. So Artem, let's start with you on this one.
Yeah, in these terms, I would say we have two strategies. One is to start without IAPs, to discover how users react to our game generally. So we put a game, we turn off the IAPs, and like soft launch on the users to receive some reaction on this. Maybe on the setup, on the basics, on some technical events, etc. And the second strategy is to go both with IMPs and ad monetization. We use this strategy when we have some kind of particular audience, and we want to make all the testing on this particular audience and see the reaction of this audience, because again you could receive some metrics on the first strategy, and you do not include people who pay in this strategy. The second strategy allows you to get the reaction of people who pay. The last strategy, when we go with IAPs, it is more smooth and stretched in time because you need to receive some purchases. They do not usually come on the first days. You need to cohort to close, etc. So we use these two approaches.
Yeah, thank you, Artem. Gonzalo, anything to add here?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with Artem said, of course, but I think like regarding pure hyper casual games, we also normally do start without IPs, because at the end of the day, you need to check if your game has kind of the minimum retention to then introduce IPs that are gonna impact your economy. So we do normally do the soft launch without IPs. Then we add the basic, very easy to implement IPs like the no ads, just maybe a certain amount of coins, etc. But I think something that is very important here is then the communication between the user acquisition team and the game design team. Because if you are starting as a user acquisition, if you're starting to see that it's starting to be 5%, 10% of your revenue, then here is the moment where we really go to the game design team and we discuss what new IAPs to add and what type, and the game is going to start being more around, the economy is going to evolve a bit about around the IAPs. So that's why sometimes for a game is a bit more idle-ish. So let's say idle arcades, we also add subscriptions, because normally subscriptions, they then tend to stay longer. But here, once again, you need to be very clear with your game design team to always be working on the game. Why? Because subscriptions can be a bit tricky in terms of, you can have a lot of subscriptions in the beginning. So your cohorts, they look on day 30, day 60, they look amazing. But if your game is not strong enough for those subscriptions to keep being recurrent, then maybe on the second month, all the new subscribers, or the subscribers that are renewing that subscription, they can cancel it. And even in the future, your past cohorts, they actually can go to the red, right? Because you are predicting day 60, sometimes day 90, and you are assuming, okay, I'm going to be profitable in 90 days. But if on the second day the users are stopping the subscription, then you go back, you look at your old cohorts, and they're going to be much more negative than what you assumed. So bottom line, basically, it's work. Normally we start with our IAPs, without subscriptions. Then we add the basic ones. Then we work with our game design team. As soon as these IAPs start to be a bit relevant, 5%, 7%, 10%, and you see that there's a need for an app purchase. And from this moment on, you also need your game design team to maintain the activity of the game. That's super crucial for us.
Yeah, thank you, Gonzalo. Louis, I think you being a bridge between marketing, game design, and product. I think it's a good place where we jump in and discuss basically the best practices. Guys have talked a lot about starting without IPs and adding them on top. So you kind of have to know what type of game requires, which type of IP and what you can actually add. So if you can share, please let us know, what has worked for HSEC, what have you experimented with?
Sure. At HSEC, we work in the same way. We first focus on the product, improving the retention, the in-game metrics before implementing in-app purchases. So I think we work in the same way than you guys. But of course, you need to think about monetization at an early stage during the development, so it is very fully integrated into your game. That said, I cannot give you a perfect recipe to increase your in-app purchases into each of your games. Each game is different. An in-app purchase, a type of in-app purchase which performs very well into one of your game can not perform at all in another one. So you need to experiment a lot, to benchmark also a lot, benchmark your competitors, other games, bring features from, I don't know, casual or mid-core games into your more casual and accessible games. Also, I think our hyper casual games and hybrid casual games, they target a broad audience. So you have all these types of players you want to monetize, and you want to give them content also. Some players will maybe love competition, so they want to buy power to be stronger in the game. Other players, they are, I don't know, impatient, so they want to buy lives and energy to keep playing longer and longer. Other are fashion victims. They love cosmetics. So you need to give something to everyone. And what my main advice here is to bring lots of different types of in-app purchases to players, to give something to everyone. At HSEC, some work more than others. Usually special characters into our games work way more than cosmetics. So that's my take on this part of the business. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Louis. Guys, anything to add, Artem? Maybe some of the best practices that worked for other games?
I would say that the main thought is that you have the audience, or you always have audience that is sensitive to in-app purchases, and if you have a hyper-casual game and you want to discover whether you need to implement in-app purchase or not, you can just make an experiment. You can take your most popular mechanics of the rewarded videos and just create some paid content based on that. And if you see an increase, you can just go on with implementing the in-app purchases. And after that, everything is left is just fine-tuning of your prices, offers, A/B testing, watching your funnel into particular item purchase, and discovering whether CR is good or not, and just finding where you have some problems like price, offer, etc. So the iteration flow is at this stage is the same as in casual or mid-core titles.
Yeah, thank you, Artem. Gonzalo, anything to add here? Maybe something about the differences you have seen between Android and iOS?
Between Android and iOS, okay, that's an interesting topic. So in terms of course, of consumption, there's no doubt that the iOS users are slightly stronger, right? They're bringing more revenue overall. However, with the ATT, we are seeing that it's slightly harder to track these consumptions by network, by campaign, by even sometimes like by geo. And here is where we are facing the biggest issue is if for some reason you do have a campaign, let's imagine from TikTok, Snap, and Facebook at the same time tracking IP users, it's going to be a bit hard, not to say really hard, to then really acknowledge where are all the IP consumptions coming from. So that's why normally what we try to do is we try to do network per network. So we start one network, we see more or less what is the conversion rate from this network. We need to really stabilize those values and those volumes to know, okay, from this network, the conversion rate to pay users is 2%. And then after 2-3 weeks, we can start a new network, because at least you're already assuming that 2% of the users coming from network X, they're going to generate IPs, and then we can add an extra network, and the surplus will be what is coming from this new network. So that is pretty interesting. But at the end of the day, the iOS users are indeed a bit more IP savvy, let's say.
Yeah, thank you, Gonzalo. So we have done all of the prototyping. We have understood during soft launch our game has good retention. We have added IAPs on top, and we are ready for for a global launch, right? So any differences when it comes to approaching your user acquisition and overall kind of live ops as a publisher for games with higher IAP share? What have you seen, guys? Maybe does it give you like extra additional tools to reach? We have talked a lot about reaching new audiences. So how does it all work, and how does it differ from a hyper casual game that is driven only by ads? So Gonzalo, I mean, I'll just let you continue. I think you have been onto something with user acquisition. So
for sure,
tell us how it's different.
Cool, no worries. So yeah, I mean, just going quickly back to what I said in the beginning. So definitely one of the most important things is the fact that you gain this extra event to target, right? You gain this extra purchase event that you can then use across all your ad networks, and you can target users that are more willing to consume in-app purchases. And once again, like I said before, this can even bring you better quality users. That doesn't automatically mean that they're going to consume IPs, but still, what I also think that is very important when you do start having a game that is starting having 10, 15%, even sometimes 20% of IPs, is that geos react very differently, right? You can create your own pricing per geo, but that's really not the common thing in hyper casual, because it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of you need to maintain this economy. So then sometimes $4 in the US, they are much different than $4 maybe in Portugal. Okay, I'm from Portugal, so I can say this. So, and you can see that the consumption varies a lot between geos, when normally in ads it doesn't, right? So a user from day 0 to day 7 can increase by, I don't know, 50% on ROI, and it's pretty common across all geos. But once you start adding in our purchases, Portugal versus United States, it reacts totally different. There's much less conversion per user. So this gain, it gives you an extra layer of complexity, and it takes more time to analyze the campaigns. You need to create your own, once again, ROI goals per geo, and things start being as uniform as they are for hyper casual, and you start being a bit more curious, and you need to analyze every little thing. So this is just one of them. I know we don't have a lot of time, so I just want to also give some space for Artem.
Yeah, Artem, maybe 1 minute answer, and so we can at least take one question from a QA.
Sure, briefly. So I completely agree with what Gonzalo said. When it comes about hyper casual, people invest time because they watch ads. When it comes to the IAPs, people invest money from their wallet, and you have more dependency on the revenue per person. So that's why geos is important. And now you got two different segments. It's important to acquire both segments. It allows you to launch different types of UA campaigns, purchase optimization, IAP ROAS optimization, event optimization, some proxy metrics. You have more channels. For example, you can afford yourself more expensive channels like, for example, Facebook, or more DSPs that have expensive traffic. You can now acquire users both with broad and narrow targeting, for example, interests and lookalikes. You have different approach to traffic analysis. Sometimes prediction doesn't work properly, and different creative approaches. So you can show now in your creative more core mechanics like progression or collections. And
Artem, Artem, sorry, I'm gonna cut you off here. I just want to really make sure we have time for one Q&A question. So I have picked this one. I think it's an interesting one. So the question from the chat: how many days of fresh content is played for the player when releasing a hyper casual game with in-app purchases? How much more is this content as compared to a hyper casual game without a bigger share of IAPs, since paid users can stick around for much longer? Louis, I think it's a perfect question for you.
Yeah, so the question was how much content you need to...
Yeah, basically for a game with IAPs versus the game without IAPs.
Yeah, it's a good question.
It's a good one.
Tricky one also. As I said earlier, you need a lot of content to monetize players with in-app purchases. So once you're confident in your in-game metrics, you can spend lots of times and optimize and bring content to the game, which is targeting monetization. Like I said, lots of type of in-app purchases. There are lots of examples, lots of features that work in games you can implement. But first, you really need to focus on your in-game metrics, and then you can spend time on adding content and monetize players. If I can give a very concrete trick, display full screen offers for your in-app purchases. Show in-app purchases to your players as many times as you can if you want to convert them into paying users. It's the best thing for at 8sec at least. We display custom offers at each time, and you can monetize better your players like that.
Yeah, we have just 5 seconds left. I want to thank everybody for coming to the panel. Please reach out to the speakers and to me. Thank you all for coming. Thank you very much. We are going to wrap this up right now. It was an interesting discussion. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
You.
Have a great day.
Bye, guys.
See you.